Thank you for joining us. IPR has been created to bring together global industry stakeholders, visionaries and business leaders to make informed decisions and to drive positive change. And now we have a panel discussion. It's called Africa Remittances, Traversing the New Frontier. Something a bit Star Trek-y, isn't it, that? So it's going to be a 45-minute moderated discussion and around 30 minutes at the end for questions from the audience. And again, for those who are joining us from around the world online, you can drop your questions in the Q&A box, and our wonderful team here will pose those questions for you. Make them good, I say. Okay, let's introduce our first panelist, who is actually the moderator, Priscilla de Oliveira Friedman. Aha, there you are. COO at Crosstech. Priscilla has a rich background in strategy, payments and process improvement. She excelled at American Express, very good, leading payments team and innovating social media communication. She later drove digital product development at Laureate as Director of Student Success and now serves as COO at Crosstech, dedicated to operational excellence, innovation and conferences, consulting and digital products. That's amazing. Well done. Thank you so much. And then we have Abubakar Sek, Managing Director of Africa Remit One. We'll try not to stand next to each other.
We've done that before.
Have you? I know. It's yeah, it's so depressing. But you all know Abubakar. You don't need an introduction. Okay. Right, next we have Temi Lolua Adesina, who is Product Manager at Flutterwave. Let's hear it for Temi Lolua. Temi has spent, I'll just call you Temi, if that's okay. Yeah. Spent a large part of his career building for merchants and consumers in the fintech space at Flutterwave. He's worked across Flutterwave's range of products from its first payment gateway solution and now working on Send, which is its P2P remittance service. Where is the wonderful George Boateng, COO UnityLink? Now, George works for a top European remittance firm, brings a decade of industry expertise. He drives partnerships, fosters growth, and excels in team leadership, consistently boosting sales and optimizing KPIs. It's wonderful to see you again. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Reynald Beto. Reynald, let's hear it for him. Head of Everyday Banking at Stanbic Bank Ghana. He's a head of Everyday Banking, a member of the Standard Bank Group, Africa's largest bank, with over 15 years in banking. He specializes in payment solutions, particularly remittances. So over to you, Priscilla. Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you all for attending our session. And today I feel very honored to be with African experts, with different companies doing different things in the industry. And I come from Crosstech, where a lot of our following is US LATAM. And what I learned in the last 2 days here, yesterday and today, is that Africa is a topic of interest everywhere. So here we're very focused on Europe, and we are seeing the same trend and when we are in the American side. So I'm very proud, not only to introduce to the online crowd, but also to the worldwide followers of Remit One and Crosstech as well, the opportunities that you guys have seen in the Africa community. So very pleased and honored to be sitting here right next to you. So today we're going to be very casual. I want you guys to don't feel nervous. It's about having a conversation about your experience, things you have seen in the industry, so that way everyone can learn from you. So first question is going to be current landscape of remittances in Africa. So how do you think it has evolved in the last decade? And we're going to start with you, Abubakar, so you can talk a little bit about, I know you and I met in the United Nations in Nairobi. And actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but Abubakar was able to receive one award for Remit One as a solution making a difference. So tell us a little bit about how the current landscape is in Africa.
Thank you for the introduction and mentioning our award in Nairobi. Well, coming to the topic, this first question, the African landscape, remittance landscape, is really wide, diverse, and dynamic. Okay, wide in the sense that remittances are very important in almost every country in Africa. Every country in Africa rely a lot on inbound, transactions, etc. It's a very diverse landscape because we have different kind of players, different types of services, offering, and so on. We have still the traditional way, the digital way of doing remittances, but in between, if you look at it, you have different types of offering and business models, okay? And the landscape, the business is as well extremely dynamic, okay? Africa is not the biggest continent in terms of, population, but what we notice is that, the transactions are growing, whatever situation. Even during COVID, everyone was surprised that, we discovered that the transactions were growing, where everyone was expecting, them to go down, because one huge market is the informal market. Informal market. This will, allow me to speak about the second aspect of the question, how things has evolved. I've been around for quite some time. I'm a bit old now. That's why I'm wearing a hat, because it's cold for me and I don't have hair. So, and what we saw in the early 2000s, it was very simple. Okay, the market was mostly, upstream to downstream, from the Western world to Africa, and it was international. Yep. Okay, dominated by the big players we know, and it was a very, restricted market with all those exclusive contracts. It was a nightmare. We fought a lot to open up the market because, the potential could not be unlocked because, with the situation of, exclusive contracts, no one else was able to play, okay? I remember with our company, we succeeded to find a small hole with, some specific partners like Post-Office and so on, so we could offer a remittance solution, African remittance-owned solution. That time, prices were extremely high, okay? And we only had international. No mention about domestic. It was almost 100%, informal. No mention about sub-regional, where we have an extremely important potential, okay? So, afterwards, now we have come to the area of digital. But what is important to know and to notice is that still, even if digital is improving a lot, but the cash is still there, okay? We don't forget that, it is human, the human dimension is very important, in this business and for Africans. So we still keep some of the specificities we have before, and aside we have the mobile and etc. and so on growing very fast. So now we have different types of offering with the mobiles. We have remittances, we have payments, we have even, those who are sending goods to their customers, to their families back home. So very many things that are happening. We have new players, doing business to business. So the market is evolving, and it is very important to notice.
And to tag back on your comment, I think it's how the informal market now is being known as formal because more people know about it. And I think I like to call it the unhidden opportunity, right? The opportunity was always there, but now more people know about it. So that's why in every panel that we are and in every conversation, everybody wants to tap into Africa. So let's talk about, George, with your digital background. How do you see that current landscape in your point of view?
I think for remittances, we've come a long way. Remittances have evolved. I remember the time that we were using fax to fax information to a bank to be able to pay. Payment could take about 3 days to a week for payment to reach there. Yep. We started with faxes and then that was only for cash pickup only. So from there, we were able to get to a stage whereby we added bank deposits. The bank deposit wasn't taken up very much because most of the people were underbanked. They were financially excluded. So that took some time to pick up the bank transfers. And normally the banks, as Babuk said, they had exclusive contracts with these big companies. So for them to receive money to put into a bank account was also another issue. From there, we were able to get through a process whereby the remittances, because Africa is purely a money-driven economy, it's not like a credit economy. Everybody there has to hold cash. So when you went to the bank to pick up money, you needed an ID. And most people didn't have an ID. So that was also a problem. So we've come from that era whereby all these things were happening. And then the next time we saw the digital revolution. And that has automatically opened up everything. So as Babuka said, we have a situation whereby Africa is a sleeping giant for remittance. A lot of the population has been untapped. And so long as there is migration, Africa will still dominate in terms of the remittance industry. In most countries, remittance contributes the highest income to the country. So based on that, there has been regulations. So the regulations comes in, and that also brings another level of issues. So that brings you back to identification, proving things, and everything. So the revolution in remittance in Africa has gone 360, and now it is the fastest growing industry in Africa. And there is a lot of untapped countries, potentials, especially when you come to the digital market, where we have the mobile networks. It started from East Africa and it's gone to West Africa. The North and the South would come in, and when they come, Africa will be the breadbasket for every businessman to be. So I think we've come a long way, and there's a potential for everybody in Africa.
How about you, Reno, from a banking perspective? I know when we talk about evolution, banks are always the one behind, right? Yeah. So how do you see that from what has been the biggest impact?
So for us in the banking, when it comes to remittances, the role that the banks typically play, has to do with settlement. Yes. For the most part. It's usually fueled by money transfer organizations. Yes. By payment service providers. So us as banks mostly just doing the settlement parts of the remittance business. But I think a significant part of the whole value chain for remittances has to do with the fact that for most African economies, remittances play a very significant role. In terms of GDP, it's quite significant. If you look at Ghana, for example, we're doing about 5-6%. It's quite similar in Nigeria, in other countries as well. In some countries, as much as 10%, contributing as much as that of the GDP. So that tells you just how important the business of remittances is for the countries. But for us as banks, like you said, usually as a result of the regulatory environment, we are typically very slow when it comes to innovation, accepting new ways of doing things. Banks have usually higher costs of operations because most banks are not built online. They have fiscal structures. So even in terms of extending the solution to our customers, we need to.
But it is possible.
It is definitely possible. It is definitely, so for us as banks, mostly being able to have a strategy that allows us to play, closely with, the money transfer organizations, the payment service providers, empowering them, so that at least in terms of liquidity, I know that one of the things, I'm sure maybe it will come up later, has to do with extending, facilities or credit facilities to payment service providers, money transfer organizations, so that for money that is sent in, for George, UnityLink, he doesn't want to make money readily available. He doesn't want money sitting in Ghana waiting to be paid out. He would want us to pay out, and then once we pay out, we say, well, George, we paid out 5 million, and then he sends it to us, right? So that's the role that's in terms of money transfer, the banks are playing in that space.
Thank you.
Sure.
And now just wanted to make sure our online followers are here with us. We're going to go to the next question that talks about entering the market. And Tammy, that one is for you. I know a lot of clients in Americas, clients in the EMEA region, they're looking to enter Africa. So what will be your advice of things they should be thinking about to get into that new corridor?
Yeah, definitely. So getting into Africa is quite interesting. It's a rewarding journey, but it's challenging. And over time, I think it's gotten easier with partners or with people who have set up multiple connections, multiple licensing in the space. So one thing to consider is, do I need licensing or do I need a partnership?
Yes.
And that's very important because it depends on, or it determines the speed in which you sort of get into the market, right? So, good strategy is to first focus on partnerships, and then, you could work out towards getting your own licensing and working with the regulators. Also is focusing on regions is a good way to look at the market. So an example would be East Africa as a region and Francophone Africa. Why? Is they sort of share the same regulations across the board. They share the same, in terms of understanding the people, they share the same sort of cultures, etc. across the board as well. And also, take Francophone Africa as an example, where the ZAF and ZOF are the main currencies. And so, connecting to one partner gives you access to multiple countries. So I think, those are some of the key things to look at when you get into the market. Yeah.
And one thing that I always like to say is time to market, especially now the competition is so high. Pricing, yesterday we talked about, it keeps dropping. I agree with Nikita when she said about, it's becoming a commodity. And even though it's my personal opinion, I think remittances is going to be cost zero in the future. And you as a player are going to have to identify how do you have competitive advantage into your product offering so they can pick you. So I think what you said is very important. Time to market, build versus partner. Yeah. And a lot of that we've been talking about today is partnerships. Yeah. So partnerships and Remit One, I think that's a big core value for you guys. So let's talk about Abubakar from your perspective.
Well, partnerships are very important if you want to enter the African market. As already said, you have to consider the regulations. There are very many and different, etc. Okay, you have to really understand what you are allowed to do. Okay? Good as well to have a strong technology, flexible enough, and to be prepared to do lots of integration with your APIs, because people are offering very many things. You cannot have one technology that can do everything, okay? So you need to have a flexible technology and the APIs, necessary APIs, etc. Very important to, be focused on what you want to do and the corridors if you are starting, okay? There are very many interesting corridors and products. You have to be focused at the beginning to try to do something good first, okay? And after, build a brand name and expand. Okay? Of course, it will be, it's more and more important to have, the financial strength now. Signing partnership right now, all partners want you to pre-fund. Okay, so if you don't have the cash available, it will be difficult to enter the market. Okay, and be ready to share what you'll be getting with many players, okay? I mean, the market is scattered, etc., but still very interesting.
So let's talk a little bit about, do you want to add that?
Yes, I want to
Go
add
on,
something.
George.
I think entering Africa shouldn't be scary. It should be encouraging. There are people there who are ready to help. In each country, there are specialists.
Yes.
I don't believe in plugging into one and taking you everywhere. Every country has got a specialist. Look for the specialist to that country, and that person will guide you through the loops. It's very expensive and a lot of legal wrangling to be able to get into one. So if you get somebody who knows the corridor you are going, they are experts in that, they know the people, you are easily able to relax and plug in. One thing that I want to also say is that when you're choosing a corridor, you need to understand the people because they will be your clients. You don't choose a place because everybody is going there and everybody is making money. Choose a corridor that you think you have the demography around where your business is from the send side. And also, you understand that culture. Africa is made up of culture, tribes, and everything. So don't underestimate that. It plays a very big part in terms of your relationship with your clients, the receiving side. Very important.
Yeah, no, so I just wanted to add quickly to the corridor parts, that George mentioned. So, for example, if you look at, a corridor like Ghana, right,
Yes.
in Africa, or Nigeria, so you don't have a lot of Ghanaians in, countries that don't speak English. Not to say they're not there, but if you're establishing, a send side from, France, Ukraine, Russia, you probably wouldn't want to target a country like Ghana as the first country to go to because in terms of the flows, those may be little. So the corridors, that conversation is quite important and it's a critical part of, entry going into Ghana, so into Africa, I mean.
So to summarize, understand the culture.
Yeah.
Pick a product, don't pick one, specialize in the country you're looking for, and make sure that you understand the migration flows so you know specifically where they're coming from and you can target that market. So I hope that was clear for everyone outside of Africa who are looking for this opportunity to be part of your new business model. Next question, I want to get into details. Innovation technologies and platform, Tammy, for you. What do you think are the ones that people should be thinking about? And I know you're representing one, so let's try to think outside of the box here so we can give people some solutions.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say for innovation and technologies, mobile money has played a big role in terms of remittances into Africa because, with mobile money is with the spread of mobile devices and telecommunications, due to the nature of people wanting to communicate with each other, mobile money was just the right place, was just at the right place, rather. And so, people have SIM devices or mobile phones, and then, you could send money to that number, and money would sit on that phone. And so that person could, go to a kiosk, right, or just, go to the hospital or go anywhere, and they want to pay, and then they use mobile money to pay. So it's a really huge technology that has taken off and has helped in terms of remittances into Africa. Another I would, think of is just, the partnerships that are growing between remittance service providers and telcos, as well as, partners like Safaricom. So outside of mobile money is interoperability with, existing systems like bank accounts and also like cash, right? So, with mobile money is money could sit in a mobile wallet, but someone still wants to get cash. So there needs to be an opportunity to be able to do that. Or money can sit in mobile money wallets or might want to sit in bank accounts for savings, right? Just as, a form of culture for people. And so, having all those systems play together, I think is, some of the innovation we've seen in the market. And stable coins as well has also started growing. And we've seen partners like Stellar, Ripple, helping remittance companies scale with stable coins as well.
And I also like to give a shout out here. I met a company yesterday here. It's from Africa. I think you're in the audience. It's called Click and Pay. And what they do is you are able to decide how you spend the remittance money that is sent. I thought that was very interesting because, at least in high-risk countries, when you're sending to your family member and you want to make sure that that fund is spent for a specific reason, like pharmacy or supermarket, also is looking for those products that are new in the market and who are, providing something different. Because as we said today, there is a lot of technology available. So how do you become different than the others? So I think it's looking for those, but also looking for the new idea that it's coming out and providing a solution for the market. I know you guys are out there, but I wanted to give that a shout out because I thought it was very innovative. The next question is challenges. I think we all love to talk about solutions, what can we do? But let's talk about challenges. So what are the challenges that happens within the African diaspora, and how can you improve the flow of funds by fixing them? So do you want to start?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So challenges. Let's see. I think cost is one major thing. What we know is that remittances into Africa are quite expensive.
Yes.
Right, for irrespective of the send country. Even remittances within Africa is almost non-existent, almost. I'm saying that because of the cost issues, regulatory issues. In fact, there are lots of them, right? But for Africans in the diaspora, I think cost is one. Access to the funds that are remitted is also one, because you send money to the continent. And in recent times, because of mobile money services, right, it's become a lot more accessible. But prior to that, it was mostly cash. And I know that for some countries, some countries in Africa are still, very cash dependent when it comes to remittances, right? So for those countries, the beneficiaries always need to find, a fiscal location, usually a bank or, some agency to be able to take the cash, right? So in other instances, in other jurisdictions where mobile money is a lot more common, you see that, those are. So I'd say cost being, one key thing, as in one main challenge, and then maybe the regulatory environment when it comes to, remittances in Africa.
How about you, George? Let's talk about challenge and how are you able to fix the flow of funds by solving that challenge? Do you have any examples?
Yes. We have the issue of the sender sending to Africa from anywhere in the world. There's always the issue of the banked and underbanked. Mm-hmm. If you're sending money to somebody in the village and the person hasn't got access to a bank, they won't be able to pick it up. So it's a challenge. The way around it is now the mobile money. So people have the mobile money, the mobile wallet, and they can access it. We have the challenge of also the fluctuation of the FX and the cost. He raised the cost as well. So you get the person receiving the money would get less because of the fluctuation in the FX. Some of them will tell you, oh, I knew you were offering this price, but the following day it will change. But then that impact to the receiver is quite great. It's a challenge. We have also the issue of the interoperability, where you can send money from one network to the other, which is great. So now it gives a lot of people the opportunity to transfer money. I think in January 2022, Ghana did a re-registration of SIM cards, and they registered almost about 40 million. Somebody will say, what is the population in Ghana? We are only about 35. But just for mobiles, we registered 40 million.
Wow.
Because people were holding 2, 3 mobile phones, because at that time, the interoperability wasn't there. So if you ask me to transfer money to an MTN, I have to ask you whether you have an MTN number. But now you don't. You can cross it. So based on that, there's a solution there that we can move money between networks. So that is a great thing as well there. So, and also the people from here, the sender has also got a challenge. Some of them here also are not documented.
I understand.
So if they are not documented, how do they send the money? So that is a big issue. The compliance people ask you, we need an ID, a proof of address, and your source of funds. These are all things that you need to be documented to be able to prove it. How do you verify me that I live in this address when I don't have the documents? So that is an issue. But I think the solution to that is what Babuka said, that it becomes informal.
Yes.
Then that becomes an issue. So those are things that needs to be addressed.
How about you, Tammy? Do you want to add, Abakar, for me?
Yeah, I would like to add one thing. I mean, people tend to forget that the African diaspora is bigger in Africa than elsewhere.
Yes.
Okay? And we have very many, Africans, traveling all around Africa. And there is a problem that's been around for, since I started, it's still there. People have traveled with their ID in Africa. If we take ECOWAS, I can go to any country with my ID. But if I want to send money, people, they will ask me to bring my passport. So I don't have my passport.
Barrier to entry, right there.
Yes. So, so you have lots of people, who want to send money. Your Ghanaian people are very many in my city. So, who want to send money, they don't have the passport, so they cannot access the normal way of sending money. So all those people, they just go, on the ground or informal, and this still happens, okay? Some of them are using, the mobile, but we don't have interoperability everywhere. And as well with the mobile operators, I don't know why, but most of them in many areas I know, they cannot transact in different currencies, okay? If you can, the same currency you are collecting, if you want to pay in that same currency, fine, you can do it from country to country. But if you have to switch currencies, most of them are stuck, okay? So those are as well things, to consider with the problems the diaspora are facing.
Thank you for that. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about fintech startups, Tammy, and that one goes to you. So what opportunity exists for fintech startups and financial institutions to collaborate? Like the idea I gave you about this new company, looking for those competitive advantage. Yeah. How do you see that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, for fintech startups looking to get into the space is you don't need to build from scratch. There are a lot of partners who can, offer you APIs to collect payments, offer you APIs to settle that payment, offer you APIs to even cover you in terms of regulation, right? So I think, looking for a good partnership or good, partnerships is a good way to start off. And also understanding the market, which is something we've talked about as well. I think those are some of the opportunities to start off as a fintech in the space.
Okay, thank you. George, I know you mentioned mobile money ecosystem. That's something I've heard, I think, from Tammy, from you, from all of you guys sitting here. So what innovations are emerging within the mobile money ecosystem that have the potential to further enhance remittances?
Right. The mobile money wallet, a lot of people don't understand it. So
yes.
And some people find it difficult to understand why do you have a wallet with money on it on your phone. Think locally, like you've got your bank app. So you go to your bank, you know your balance and everything in there. It's similar. So the innovation that has come with the mobile wallet is such. For example, a lot of innovations going on in East Africa, where we've got something like Lipa M-Pesa, where you can use your mobile phone to pay so many things. You can use your mobile wallet to get an overdraft. You can use your mobile wallet to get a loan. How do they do that? Machine learning, artificial intelligence. It will prompt them to say, okay, this guy gets a lot of money into the wallet all the time. He spends X amount. So there's always, he's a credit-rich person. We can offer this person a loan. So this is all done on the mobile wallet side. You have people who hold only mobile wallet because that's where their salary goes in.
Yes.
You get people who are raising funds, who go to do weddings or whatever, and you want to give them a present, they will say, send it to my mobile wallet. So everything is being done on the mobile. The mobile now is looking like a bank on its own, a mobile bank, I call it. Because whatever you can do in a bank, the mobile wallet can do it for you. I saw an advert in Kenya where you sit in their tuk-tuk, just like the bus, and they've got your mobile number, their mobile wallet number there. So once you walk in, you tap in, you pay your fare. The conductor comes in, and he sees your number is there. You sit, no problem. You see, no cash, nothing, but they are using their mobile wallet. So the innovation within the mobile ecospace is going to get broader. It's going to get bigger. And there will come a time that Africa will not be using cash. We'll be depending on technology. And this is all based also on investment and infrastructure within the economy where there is digital revolution. Once the digital revolution gets kicked in, investment comes in, the mobile wallet will also be part of the process.
And I like to use that example also in Brazil. I'm Brazilian, so I relate to the conversation that Lindsay said earlier in PIX. And literally in Brazil, when you go to the beach and you want to buy a water, they have PIX number, and you can pay on the beach in the middle of the ocean with your phone, and you do that transaction right there. So the instant deposit and instant payment to be able to do anywhere and without even needing internet on your phone has enabled small businesses to grow, has enabled the economy to grow. And I think that is very similar to some of the examples you're giving of the tuk-tuk.
Yeah.
And I think that's the trend now, not only in Brazil and Africa, but also in the US with the FedNow implementation. So I just wanted to give that connection because I felt that, is very appropriate. Now I want to hear from you, Reno, your perspective from a banking. So mobile money, like you mentioned, what are the implications of mobile money compared to the regular remittances? So do you think that's going to reduce cost of remittances? What is your perspective?
I do think so. I think a key thing is the barrier or the barriers to entry. So, for example, for bank accounts, you need to have a lot of documentation. KYC is quite stringent. Access, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, the banks can only have as many, locations around, right? But the unique thing about mobile money is that it's access on your phone, right? So what we have is the telcos taking advantage of the fact that, just like George said, I mean, in a country where the population is 35 million, there are 40 million handsets. So if you look at the number of people who have access to handsets, and the phone numbers become the unique account numbers, right, that can hold funds. And for these mobile money wallets, all you need really is just your ID. So once you have your ID, it's literally just, ticking a box to say, yes, I do want mobile money, and then it's activated for you. Unlike when you go to the bank, you need to fill out all these forms. Sometimes you even need a reference and stuff like that, right? So those are the two unique, sides to the whole thing. So for people who have, mobile money, it's easier to reach them. In fact, there are a lot more people. The pick one telco like MTN, and they have a lot more customers using mobile money than all the banks that we have in Ghana combined, right? So that's how significant it is, mobile money is.
Yeah, so I'd also like to, highlight the work of regulators in the space, because, they've done a lot to increase access for players like, Flutterwave and other PSPs and, technology providers as well. And what that helps do in the market is it gives room for competition, it drives the price down, and it also increases the quality of the service for customers. So I think it's important to also highlight that role that regulators are playing in the space as well.
Just to add a bit to what you've just said, I can only talk for Ghana on this because the SIM re-registration in Ghana has been so successful because you had to re-register your SIM using your Ghana card to register your SIM. And that gives you an identity. And for the people who are compliant, don't be scared of the mobile wallet because the SIM has been registered, so is the KYC done on the person. So that SIM card is tagged to that person. They've got their ID, they've got their biometric information and everything. So the KYC is done on that person holding that mobile number and the SIM. So that is something that has been completed in Ghana and it's been a success. Because I remember some time ago when there was the terrorist bombing in Kenya. They realized that they were holding about 6 or 8 mobile phones and all the money they used came through that process. So that is something that encouraged the Ghana government to invest in that re-registration to make sure that everybody is secured so we are able to monitor and track people for not using it for the wrong reasons. So don't be worried about the KYC. It's all been done in terms of compliance.
And I think that's an evolution too, right? Because as you start gathering data through the mobile wallets, the central banks are able to catch up eventually to be able to understand volume, to be able to understand the small businesses, what kind of transactions they are receiving. And that also gives tax implications, right? That in the future, these small businesses are going to be able to play where in the past they could have just used the cash method. So I think that's an evolution that with time, we're going to be able to see that trend. But I think I agree with you. We say in CrossTech, the compliance is the beginning of everything. And if you don't have the compliance right from the beginning, the KYC, the ID solutions, you're not able to operate in any market. I'm not only talking about Africa here, but overall worldwide. So the next question is about advantages. So what are the advantages do the mobile wallets bring to users in terms of convenience and accessibility, especially I think in Africa, in villages and in places that before that didn't exist? And we can talk about social impact if you like as well. So Reynald, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. What do you say, the advantages?
Yes, the advantages of e-wallets to bring more users in terms of convenience and accessibility. And I think we're talking about more of the rural areas in Africa where before you weren't able to do any of those transactions.
Yeah, I think it flows a bit from, the last question where, the access for me was the main thing. But also the fact that, you're able to more easily facilitate payments, between, individuals. So even within the country, if you have to send money to someone, now you don't need to worry about whether there's a bank branch. So Stanbic, if you pick Stanbic Bank, for example, we have 40 branches in Ghana, right? But that doesn't mean that we are close to everyone, obviously, right? It's a big country. So if you need to reach someone, send money out, you're in the city, you need to send money out to your folks in the village or something, it's easier than doing it through mobile money. It's less expensive. And with, more telcos coming in, at the moment, we're also looking at beyond. In fact, in 2019 or so, we passed the Payment Systems, Act that's allowed, more players to come into the industry. So mobile money now goes beyond just the telcos. you have payment service providers coming in, also offering money services, where the money is sent, on whichever network it is. For the most part, like I mentioned, the account number, the phone number becomes the account number. So you don't even need to memorize. You don't even need to. All I need is I have your contacts. I can just send money to you. I can use any of the payment platforms and then send money to you. And then the most important thing, I think, is being able to redeem those funds. That was one of the main issues in the beginning. But as it stands now, literally anywhere you go, in any of the villages, any of the towns, the small towns, there's always a cash point around. Yeah. Or even if there's no cash point around, all the merchants around selling this, selling that, accept mobile money as a means of payments, right? And that's the beauty of the whole mobile money ecosystem.
So I added 2 more questions that are not here, just for us to be a little off script. So the first one is, what did the future look like from your experience for Africa Remittances? And I'm going to start with you, Abubakar, so you can give your perspective, and then we can go around in the order you will like.
Well, the future looked really bright for the remittances in Africa. The mobile money business is growing fast. There are lots of advantages, but I think that, we can go further if we look at certain aspects, okay? In Africa, of course, people think about mobile operators, banks, etc. There is a missing chapter. We have lots of microfinances, okay, in Africa. Mm-hmm. And those microfinances are the closest to the rural population. And what is happening is that, the mobile operators are taking the business of the microfinances. By microfinance, they work more on financial inclusions than the mobile operators, because mobile operators are just offering a wallet where your money is transiting, while with microfinances, you can have access to credits and so on. So, we have to look about those aspects and see how, with partnership or etc., we can improve, the services the mobile operators are offering. It is very crucial. We have the problem of interoperability, but the services that are offered to customers are very little. You just can pay this, and this. That is why the money is not staying in, the mobile accounts. It's just a transiting account for, many clients, okay? People need more cash because there are not many services available. I think if we work on that, it will help a lot. But if we work as well on the regulations, it will help. But because still what you have, the big players, mobile operators players are telcos. The fintechs are fighting to have a license to operate. Yep. Because in many countries, if you are, I can have the best technology, the best offering. I have a problem because, if you are a fintech, you are regulated in most African countries by 2 different regulators. You have the central banks for financial aspect. You have the, technical or telecommunication operator. Telcos, they have to both. They can operate. But if I am a startup, yep. I have a problem, with the regulation of the telecommunication operator. I have a problem with, central bank. So, it is difficult for some startup fintechs who have good offerings to come on board, okay? So those aspects, we have to, really look at them and try to unlock, to better unlock the potential of the African market. And it will grow, it will grow.
How about you, George? How do you see the future?
The future is bright. I remember this advert, the future is bright, the future is orange. I think with remittances in Africa, we've just scratched the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of money to be made in Africa through remittance. Having said that, the industry is also creating jobs. A lot of jobs in Africa, micro jobs. You get people selling airtimes, and the airtime that they sell, they can also dispense money for mobile wallet. So you get every half a mile, you see somebody with an umbrella with MTN on it or Vodafone on it and whatever, and they've stuck somewhere. And these are all people who are employed through remittances and mobile. So it's something that is going to grow. The person under the umbrella next time would go and secure a proper shop and employ 1 or 2 people to help. So this will just start to grow. And so long as the volumes are flowing into Africa, that money has to also go into something else to generate wealth for the other people to be able to sustain the economy in which country they are. So I think for remittances to Africa, a lot of people will keep sending money, especially those who are migrants and they are getting to their retirement age. They want to get a property or something back home that they would go and relax. And the way to send the money is not through the banking system anymore because it's expensive. It will all go through the remittance process in terms of mobile money and cash pickup or bank transfer and everything. But what Babuka said also, we have to bear in mind that there are other industries like the banks, the rural banks, all those financial institutions that play part within the remittance industry. We shouldn't forget them and be talking only about mobile wallet. But they are also there to subsidize others who don't have access to technology and who don't know how to use the mobile money. So these things work in hand.
How about you, Reynald? What is the future?
Yeah, maybe I'll say the same, future is bright. But I think I'm quite, looking forward to really what it holds, considering that, we've come from, like George said earlier, fax. In fact, I didn't even know.
Fax.
Yeah, that we're doing fax, but fax through to, cash, bank, direct-to-bank accounts, and then direct-to-mobile money wallets. And now we're hearing, talk about CBDCs and, exploring blockchain technology for remittances. So I'm quite optimistic about the future. I'm really eager to see what it holds, for remittances.
How about you, Tam? You can use the word bright, by the way.
Yeah, so I think the future is closing the wealth gap. And why I say that is if you look at the trend is, it starts with the inflow, right? You're able to send money. It's easier to receive that money. It's easier to spend. And, I think, regulators are starting to see this and look at it as well, too, is, as these people spend is you're building a lot of data that can be used for credit, right? And that helps to, fund people, helps them to do things that they'll not necessarily get access to or they wouldn't have had access to in the past. And so for me, I think that's the future, right, is, as we have mobile money in play and as people spend is banks could start to work with mobile money partners, offer new products to people. Could be savings products, could be credit products, and just better understand the customers. I think that's the future.
And I think we will be seeing a lot of inter-Africa transfers. It will get to a time that would overtake the European and American inflows because the migration within Africa is becoming fluid, especially from South Africa. You get people moving money to Zimbabwe and the Southern African states. So you get that flow of migrants going there to find work and they send money back home. And you get people moving from east to west, north to south. So that is also something that for the investors here, you can also look at the inter-African remittance. And that's also something that would be moving forward in the future.
So we will do our final exercise, and then we'll open up for questions from the audience. Please, when you ask a question, say your name, the company you're coming from, and who you're addressing your question to. So the last one, we wanted to leave with some inspiration, especially for anyone looking to get into the space. So I would like you to describe one word or to give out one word that anyone entering this space should be thinking about. So we'll start from there and we'll go here. And this is supposed to be inspiring.
Right. So yeah, one word, opportunity.
Oh, wow, okay.
Just jump. in.
George?
One word.
One word.
Unity link.
2 words.
No, it's combined. I've made it into 2. One word.
Collaboration.
So we'll leave you today with 4 words of inspiration if you're looking to get into the African market, so that way you can learn more about it. Now I want to open up for some questions. We have 5 minutes. Please raise your hand and we'll have someone with the mic bring it to you. Don't forget to say your name and the company you're coming from.
Sure. Right. Good afternoon. My name is Kofi Owusu Inshura. I work for Ensano. Ensano is a payments processor operating in 12 markets in Africa. So there are a number of things, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to use the same bright to express my sentiments around the future of remittances in Africa. There are a number of very interesting dynamics we're beginning to see. And as a player who has been in the space for practically 15 years, I'm quite concerned about the number of players emerging within the whole ecosystem. So let's take a step back, and I hope I'm able to make this point very quickly. We have the e-money issuers, and I don't want to call them fintechs because then it's almost abstracts the conversation in such a way that you're not able to make sense of it. The MTN mobile monies, the Safaricom's, and the Orange, and so on, are the e-money issuers. So they own the customers who are receiving remittances into these wallets. It's practically impossible to do a lot of business with these e-money issuers because they will not give you, as a remittance company, the needed support, the integration support, the maintenances, and so on. And so it's created a vacuum for the fintechs to get in, of which Ensano is proudly one of such fintechs. Now, what that does is to essentially create a layer on top of the pricing, because whatever the e-money issuer will charge for receiving remittances, the fintech will put a layer on top of it. Again, so I can't see how we are eventually going to get cost of remittances to reduce unless, of course, some of the players who have created layers in this space get out of the whole ecosystem. Now, what is more is that for remittance companies to be able to do KYC and other credit score type activities, there are other service providers who are also coming and creating layers on top of what the fintechs have built, essentially also increasing the pricing of remittances eventually, making it very expensive. Now, don't forget that banks are sitting back in Africa and they are looking at this whole conversation and they are saying, hey, we need to have a play in all of this. So banks are also going directly to mobile money and offering to remittance companies, listen, we can give you access to wallets, we can give you access to bank accounts, and so also creating a certain form of a parallel type competition in that whole ecosystem. But that's not my primary concern. What is really also happening is that the economics has changed tremendously. So today, with the world remits of this world, and the kind of traffic that they are sending to Africa, they are not charging that primary tariff that originally anybody would charge, say 1.5% or 3%, and so on. They are playing around the forex, right? So if they collect, let's say, 100,000 pounds here, because they would exchange it for a certain amount of CD or Naira, etc., they make their gains within that exchange. Now, this doesn't also then help the local currencies in Africa where the funds are being sent to, because essentially the pound or the dollar, whatever it is, will end up trumping the local currency. So the central banks are also taking a certain position of we are going to ensure that you don't negotiate beyond a certain number of basis points. So, for example, you can't add more than 200 pips to whatever exchange rate you are offering to the remittance company that is coming. So the economics is shifting from a tariff-led approach to an FX-type conversation. Yep. And that is also changing the whole dynamics. And so now there's a lot of difficulty we are posing as an industry to regulators around the world, in Africa, because they are unable to figure out how to deal with it. So what you are saying is that there is going to be a lot of chaos within that whole upstream of this industry before it gets clearer. And we don't know who is going to fall out. We don't know who is going to be the eventual winner. Definitely for the unity links and for the monograms and so on, who control the upstream bit of it, most probably they are fine.
I don't think we're going to be able to solve all that today.
No, definitely not.
But I think
definitely not.
What I can say in conclusion is I think there is a lot of players out there. Cost is going to continue to decrease due to the competition, and the big players are probably going to win. But I think we can take that conversation offline and discuss other solutions. But I appreciate your concern, and thank you.
We have time for one short question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think you had your I think he had his hand up.
Question. I was just quite intrigued.
Sure.
Just pass it to the front. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's for George or for Temi, actually. It's about mobile money, but it's the SIM card thing that you mentioned. It's something that we don't really think about too much in Europe, yes, or other parts of the world. But in Africa, when you effectively take a mobile phone, they do the KYC on you when you apply for your SIM card. That process, is that a quick process? I'm just intrigued because it can solve so many fraud problems. George, you were talking about biometrics. It's something that should exist here, and I'm just quite interested to know how quick that process is. What do you do? Do you just register for a SIM card with all of your KYC, and is it a quick turnaround? Is it automated?
It's a quick turnaround because you go there with your Ghana card, and the Ghana card has got your biometric information and everything on the card. Everything about you, even your mother, your father, where you vote, everything is on that biometric card. So when you go, all what they need is the Ghana card, and they will scan that biometric information, and they link it to your SIM card. So that SIM card becomes your account number, and all the KYC about you is on your Ghana card, which is linked to the SIM card.
Brilliant.
That's
Super.
brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I think we're done with the questions.
We are, yeah.
One more, is that okay?
Go, one last question.
One last question.
Is it a comment or a question? Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Femi from Ground Payment Solution. And this question is going to George. When it was asked, how is the African remittance future look like? You said it's bright. And you actually re-echoed one of my thoughts, and that being intra-Africa remittances being the beacon in wealth creation in Africa, even much more than what we'll be realizing from the offshore diaspora into Africa. Yeah, I quite agree with that. But my question precisely now is, given the fact that so many inter-African today, remittances today are infrastructure a bit quite fragmented, and we've seen also investments in investment going into building infrastructure, and one of it is the PABS, as the Pan-African Settlement and Payment System, which seems to bring, trying to create a one single platform where exchange of remittance can happen. Now, if you look at this solution at the moment, it's actually has a limited participator and looking at just major banks as a participant. Now, for a remittance, a digital startup, upcoming a startup in the digital space that wants to take advantage of this system, these PAPs, what advice would you have for them to be well positioned to be able to participate in this, given the fact that only major players are being admitted at this time?
I think it's a simple thing. We have aggregators within Africa. One example would be MFSA. You've got AZA. You've got so many people. You've got Therapy. You've got which one?
Flutterwave.
Okay, I will mention you. These people can facilitate what you are saying. It's all there. The systems are there. They've got the infrastructures in different countries that they can easily solve these issues without a problem. And they are doing it now.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your participation.
Thank you so much. Big round of applause for our panelists.